It is known as CAFE, the federal government's Corporate Average Fuel Economy Program. And while it sounds pretty good, saving energy, polluting less with your vehicle, the facts and costs surrounding CAFE standards are not well known. That's why the John Locke Foundation has joined a coalition of think tanks in a letter to President Trump about this very issue. Don Vaart signed the letter on behalf of the John Locke Foundation. He is a senior fellow here. He joins us now to talk about the costs of CAFE. Don, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So why a letter? What is the message to President Trump about CAFE?
Well, the letter is actually in response to a proposed rule that the Trump administration recently put out, and that rule was, as you said, the update of the so-called CAFE standards, which occur effectively every 5 years, and also a dual requirement, which is to try to reduce CO2 emissions or greenhouse gas emissions from motor vehicles. The two are very closely linked, as you pointed out. But the CAFE standards originally was, of course, only to address our oil shortage due to embargo by the Middle Eastern part of the world, and we had a shortage of gasoline. And as a result of that, Congress passed CAFE. So the idea was purely, at that point, in that context, fuel efficiency. Now, of course, we're no longer importing. We're a net exporter of hydrocarbons. But that's the CAFE standard. Now, the rule that was proposed by the Obama administration, previous administration, was very aggressive. And while it's somewhat complicated, suffice it to say that, as always, the CAFE standard is a corporate average fuel efficiency standard. And it is met by your entire fleet if you're Ford or you're Toyota. So your pickup trucks are not going to meet that. They're not going to contribute. They're going to lower your average. And so you sell a lot of small cars with higher fuel mileages to try to bring that average up. And typically the people who buy pickup trucks actually subsidize the cost of those little cars because Ford loses money on those little cars, and so they have to make that up somewhere. So that's sort of the overall structure of the corporate average fuel efficiency standard. The number that President Obama had put forth was a very high number. It was 54.5 miles per gallon.
So on average, a car manufacturer was going to have to average out to 54 miles a gallon?
In the future, I think it's 2026 or 2030 or something like that. It's supposed to give them a glide path to that. That's a very high number.
They would have to zoom to get to that, would they not?
Well, as always with anything that comes out of Washington, D.C., there are plenty of ways to achieve that without actually achieving that. One of which, of course, was to give you an incentive to produce a lot, 250,000 units of all-electric vehicles, and they would be counted as a very high fuel efficiency, an absurdly, unrealistically high.
So you'd be able to meet that average
to
then.
Help you bring your average up.
Okay.
That was part of the rule that stayed in that I objected to as part of the scientific. Well, the scientific advisory board actually recognized that was faulty.
Does the Trump administration want to change that?
They did not change that component. They did, however, show that the costs and the cost of getting in cars that are so small to meet that standard could actually be higher than had been previously estimated, primarily by deaths and injuries caused by being in an automobile that's so small. So part of their reproposal was to take those numbers into account. They also showed in an ancillary model, they showed that the costs, of course, keep going up as cars get more efficient, and people would actually delay in purchasing a new car because of the higher costs. And so their older car would stay on the road longer, and that ended up polluting more, was one estimate. And so that was also a detriment of the CAFE standard. As a result, the Trump administration lowered the number somewhat, and on whole, that made sense. It's better than it was. The electric vehicle incentive is something we're going to keep pushing. And as I said, the Scientific Advisory Board noted that it didn't make any sense from a fuel efficiency standpoint, and it didn't make any sense from a pollution standpoint.
Don, if you ask the average person on the street, I think you would get an answer something like this. Heck yeah, I want my vehicle to not pollute as much. Heck yeah, I want to get better gas mileage. But when you drill down into it, you said something very interesting, that the costs keep going up. Tell us about the costs. What does it mean to a buyer of a vehicle as these standards are pushed?
Oh, these vehicles, look at what an average vehicle costs nowadays from when I was 16 years old and trying to find enough money to buy a used car. The issue here is first of all, and again, I try to keep these separate because they are separate mandates. The cars that we drive today on the road are extremely clean. They are clean because they have very sophisticated technology, both on the front end in terms of formation of pollution and on the back end in terms of controlling pollution. But that all costs a lot of money. But we might remember when we first started putting catalytic converters on cars, some of the older folks. Now those catalytic converters are now three-way that include oxygen sensors, re-injection of oxygen at a later port stage in the catalyst. It's an incredibly sophisticated device, but they all cost money.
So the sticker price goes up.
The sticker price goes up. And again, people who are driving pickup trucks, they're paying more because of the subsidy that the company is having to put forth to produce the smaller cars. So I think people need to know a couple of things. First of all cars on the road right now are extremely clean, very clean. They're much more efficient than they used to be. And I think it depends on what your need for a car is. That should determine what you want to purchase. Whether you want a very efficient car, you'll be able to buy one. But if you work with a pickup truck, you'll need a pickup truck. And so we need to keep that flexibility out there. We need to keep that freedom of choice out there.
Electric vehicles, now they are popular with a lot of people. How do you charge up the battery of an electric vehicle?
Well, as we talked about in the past, electric vehicles are starting to lose their luster. I think, first of all, the environmental costs of putting the batteries together are enormous, as we're finding out. But we are also finally understanding that this is simply a transfer of pollution from the power plants that bring the electricity to our garage that we use to charge our battery versus simply coming from the tailpipe when we have a gasoline car. And we've also known, as the Scientific Advisory Board pointed out, that the cars that are the electric vehicles are no more efficient, even though there has been some misinformation put out by the previous administration. They're no more efficient. So they're not more efficient, and they're not easier on the environment, and also they don't work well when it gets cold.